A couple of weeks ago, I had built the most unique exhaust system that I have ever attempted. It's on my single cab step-side Silverado, and it had a 3-inch X pipe that flows into a Y pipe, so 3-inch in and 4-inch out. And then we ran that into a Flowmaster Hush Power Pro Series muffler, 4-inch in and out. And when we put it on the dyno and we started up in the shop, this has like the most unique and awesome sound. Except from the inside of the truck, it actually sounds kind of like garbage, to be honest. It drones like crazy and I just cannot stand it. And I have parked the truck until today so I can actually fix it and hopefully now enjoy driving the truck. So before we get to all that exhaust correction stuff, first I got a couple of housekeeping notes. Every day I do these little YouTube short videos. They're a minute long. Yes, I have to film them vertically. That's how YouTube makes me upload them. But anyway, last week on one of my daily uploads, I had a guessing game where I said, hey, if you guys want to guess the horsepower at the wheels of the step-side Silverado, I will give the winner, the closest guess, a free t-shirt. So the final answer was 275.3 horsepower at the rear wheels, and we had 4 guesses that were close. We had 3 at 275 and 1 at 276. And so I'll put the names of the winners up here on the screen. I don't really have a good way to reach out to contact you directly through YouTube, but if you see your name up there, send me an email to tolmanperformance@gmail.com and I will get you a free t-shirt headed your way. So just put in the description or the subject line of the email, just put dyno contest winner, something like that. You do need to go to my website just to kind of pick out your shirt and let me know what style you want, tolmanperformance.com. But once you have your style and your size picked out, just put that in the email and I'll get you your free shirt on the way. So congratulations to you guys. Yes, I do wish the truck made more than 275 horsepower, but forced induction will solve that in a hurry. And I think a little bit later on this spring, that's exactly what we're going to be doing. But first, I need to make it so I can actually enjoy driving the truck. And that means I need to fix the exhaust. Now, part of the drone I'm going to attribute to the fact that I don't have a tailpipe on this truck. When I built it, I ran out of materials, so I just did a little axle dump just to kind of keep the exhaust out of the way. But it sounds awful on the inside, like it drones, it rattles my interior pieces. I can't stand it. So here's what we're going to do to fix it. This is a Magnaflow tailpipe. It's for a 01 to 03 LB7 Duramax. So it's stainless steel, it's 4-inch, and basically I just needed a whole bunch of bends, and this was like the most affordable way to do it. So it's like 160 bucks, and you know this goes in the muffler, it goes over the axle, and it kind of has a kick out that'll go off to the side. Now normally, so this is actually for a long bed Duramax, and normally it'll kind of kick it out like right here at a little bit of an angle. But I kind of want to actually run it out the back. I'm going to see how that looks, but all I have to do is just kind of cut the end here and roll it a little bit, and that'll do, I think, exactly what I want. I do need to relocate the muffler a little bit further forward just because the angle of this bend here, the muffler's too close to the axle basically. So I've got some space in front of the muffler, I'll shorten that. And then I also have this guy right here. This is a resonator, basically like a little mini muffler. I need to lower the volume level of this whole system just by a little bit. And I think this is going to do the trick. So that's about 10 inches long, and it's going to fit perfectly in this space right here. So that's the goal for today. Get the tailpipe on the truck, get it sounding a little bit quieter and a lot more bearable on the inside, because I think if we get that exhaust out from underneath the truck, it'll, because right now it bounces off the ground and it kind of bounces back up to the bed of the truck and it just vibrates everything and it makes it sound awful. But if we get it flowing straight back so it's not pointing at the ground anymore, I think it's going to make this sound perfect. So first things first, the muffler is going to come off. I'm going to shorten that transition in between the Y pipe and then the muffler, then we'll build our tailpipe. So it's like 28 degrees outside. We have the heater on full blast inside. We're waiting on some paint to dry, and as soon as it does, we can put the muffler back under the truck because the muffler relocation part of this job is done. All told, I had to take about 4.5 inches out of the space in between the Y pipe and the muffler, and that's basically the distance it took to center the highest point of this over the axle pipe right over the axle tube. I could actually slide this in before, but the axle tube would have been like here, and as soon as you go over a bump, it would have smashed into that. So 4.5 inches is what it took to center this guy right on top of the axle. Now, because I did take that measurement, or that 4.5 inches out of the space between the Y pipe and the muffler, you can kind of see how it goes from like round to oval here. Well, I had to take a little bit of extra time with a hammer and the vise just to kind of massage the back end of the Y pipe back into a circle again. And that way, when I attached it to the muffler, it was a nice, perfectly round, you know, it was a perfectly round spot and there was 0 gaps. You could have just kind of welded it together with a MIG or even filled the gaps with a TIG, but this way at least it's a perfect gap. It looks real nice, and well, now it's welded together and ready to go. The coating that they put on the Y pipe and the muffler from the factory is kind of like it's kind of paint, but it burns off. It just kind of turns to dust. So I wire wheeled everything and I hit it with some of that, you know, generic high temperature header paint. I only had flat black here, but it looks a lot better than it did before, and the muffler was like really scratched up from going in and out 100 times. So I got that looking good too. Added one hanger. You can see the front hanger right there on the Y pipe is actually parallel with the system, and that just makes it so much easier to actually slip those two coupling or joints right there out of the X pipe. And this hanger is in the original spot, although I did have to relocate the mate to this on the truck side to the front of the cross member instead of on the back. Now, next time I have the bed off the truck, I will have 2 hangers, 2 original factory hangers that I want to cut off, just because I can't stand how they look just when you're under a truck and there's like an exhaust hanger barb that's just sitting there not being used. But we'll take care of that once I do have the bed off, probably next month, because we're going to be doing some future suspension changes. Speaking of which, whenever you build a tailpipe, just kind of keep that stuff in mind. For me, we're going to be doing a shock relocation kit, which moves both shocks to the back side of the axle instead of kind of on opposite ends. So when I build this tailpipe, I need to make sure I have clearance around the original shock, but I also leave room for the relocated shock, which is going to go kind of outboard on that cross member right there. And then also I'm going to have to leave room for the sway bar, which is a Tahoe sway bar, which actually kind of goes right underneath the frame there. That's one of the hangers right there. You can see I'll cut that off later, but you can kind of tell the bed covers everything up right now. Because I don't want to just kind of cut it, which would work. I actually want to take the time to cut the welds and remove the entire thing from the cross member, because apparently I'm OCD, but that'll make me happy whenever the time comes. So basically that's where we're at. As soon as this paint dries, we'll put the system back in the truck. All right, we're just about wrapped up here, and I kind of wanted to talk about hangers really quickly because you do have a lot of different options, especially if you look at an aftermarket parts catalog. I always prefer to use these OEM style rod or barb exhaust hangers just because they're readily available. These are like, I'm reusing the original ones, and they do kind of look old and a little bit nasty, I guess, but they're still plenty strong, and they allow the system to kind of move around like they're supposed to. These are available on Amazon. I'll put the link in the description. They're like $8 a piece, 1/2-inch stainless steel, and the 1/2-inch matches the size that's already on the Silverado. But if you're building a system from scratch and you don't need 1/2-inch, because that's honestly kind of overkill, I always go for the smaller 3/8-inch stuff. It's pretty easy to bend, like say if you want to make it round to match the contour of an exhaust pipe or a cross member. That's what I like to use. It does require a smaller hanger. That's for the 3/8, and this is the original one for the 1/2-inch. In terms of the clamp that's going to hold the tailpipe in, I like these flat stepped style of clamps. Get the one, if you want, that has a nut and a bolt rather than having the little chunk here threaded, because say in the event that this is on there for a couple of years and this rusts out or it strips, you can easily just put a new nut and a bolt in there and the clamp is still good. Not that they're terribly expensive, but if something's going to wear out, it's going to be the threads that were cut into that block. So prefer the nut and bolt style. Anyway, this is what the finished product for the tailpipe looks like, and it's definitely turned into like a really elaborate project, where at first I was thinking I could just kind of make 1 or 2 cuts, but basically we ended up shortening this by 1 inch, cutting this and twisting it. You can kind of see where the original piece was. I shortened both this half and this half to keep the resonator tucked up as high as possible to the frame. Of course, we added the resonator, and then this was the only material I had to include extra because the tailpipe didn't have quite enough length and bend to get this down. The receiver hitch will be like right here, and I'm still thinking about adding a little bit of a slash cut on the end just to kind of make it look a little bit cooler. I'll figure that out once I get the hanger installed, but that's the finished product and we're almost done. million-dollar question is, after all that effort, about 2 days worth of work, has the exhaust gotten any quieter or more bearable? I think that's the key. It's not so much volume, it's about how bearable it is for me inside the cabin. I could care less how loud it is from the outside, you know, just as long as I'm not hassled by the cops. But from the inside, it's, when I'm driving around, it's a little bit better. It's definitely not all the way better, kind of to where I would have hoped, but definitely a major step in the right direction. Let's say we're half or 3/4 of the way there. It does still drone a little bit, but like the one thing it doesn't do is rattle the back trim piece on the cab there, which was like the most annoying part of the whole thing. So I'm definitely happy, but I'm not like excited. But if you guys know me, you'll know that when it comes to exhaust systems, I'm probably one of the most picky people out there, and I'm definitely going to be changing this one again in the future, but at least for now, it's bearable, and I'm going to use the truck and drive it and actually kind of enjoy it. The problem area is under heavy load, right around 1900 or 2000 RPM, like say you're going up a hill. Let me slow down a little bit and see if I can show you. It's kind of a little bit noisy, like, right, it's about 2200 RPM, but way better than it was before. And then the one thing the resonator did do is slightly change the pitch, where before that flowmaster had a pretty distinct idle, and it still kind of does, but the resonator took a little bit of that away. Not a bad thing, but just changed the tone ever so slightly. Under wide open throttle, I actually like how it sounds better now, whether that's just because of the extra length of the tailpipe or because of the resonator. I'm not sure which one, probably a combination of the two. So, sounds a little better. I'm happy. Definitely could be happier. We might be adding like one of those quarter wave resonators or like a J-pipe at some point in the future. I'll drive it around for a couple of weeks and kind of figure out exactly what RPM is the worst, and we'll tune the length of the resonator to cancel that drone. So there's a project in the future. But for now, we're going to enjoy the truck. Do want to say thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. Do me the favor though, 3 things: like, comment, and subscribe. Drop a comment, tell me that I'm getting old because I don't like loud exhaust. I think it's kind of funny because I can remember when I was a kid, my dad had this old street rod truck, and I kept telling him, "Dad, you got to put some loud mufflers on that thing." He'd be like, "No, I want it stock. I want it to sound quiet." You know, it had a built-up 327 in it, but he wanted the thing to sound quiet. So I fear like I'm getting to be an old man. I'm kind of sounding like my dad, but maybe that's just part of getting older, part of life. But anyway, I'm kind of happy. You guys know how that goes. It's like never satisfied. Anyway, here's wide open throttle pull to end the video on. True track.